I carry a log. Yes. Is it funny to you? It is not to me. Behind all things are reasons. Reasons can even explain the absurd. Do we have the time to learn the reasons behind the human being's varied behavior? I think not. Some take the time. Are they called detectives? Watch and see what life teaches.
Oh, dear. Lucy, this is Pete Martell. Lucy, put Harry on the horn.
Sheriff, it's Pete Martell up at the mill. I'm going to transfer it to the phone on the table by the red chair. The red chair against the wall. The little table with the lamp on it. The lamp that we moved from the corner. The black phone, not the brown phone.
Morning, Pete. Harry.
She's dead. Wrapped in plastic.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Twin Peaks podcast. I'm not sure if that's going to be the final name or not. Bucky, what do you think? Should we call it the Twin Peaks podcast, or should we call it the Agent Dale Cooper podcast or Log Lady podcast?
The Log Lady podcast.
Log Lady podcast. We should start calling that.
Yeah, she was the most mysterious person on the show.
She was. So the Twin Peaks podcast, I'm not 100% sure if that's going to be the final name, because probably somewhere out there, I haven't Googled it. I should have. If there's another podcast out there called that. So if there is, and you're listening, don't get angry at me. I didn't mean to. We could all, the Twin Peaks field, we could all play it and be friends. So don't send me any hate mail and be like, you need to take down that show because it has the same letters and stuff as mine. It's Twin Peaks podcast. The goal here is to, for each episode of the show, we're going to do an episode of a podcast is going to focus on an episode of the Twin Peaks show. I got a little tongue twister there. There was about 30 episodes. Are we going to do the movie? Are we going to should we include the movie in there? Is that pivotal?
No, not necessarily.
Okay, it's not pivotal. Okay, so it was Fire Walk with Me was the movie that was like a theatrical release.
I believe it was done in theaters, and the intention was that David Lynch was going to do a number of movies.
Yeah.
But I guess it just didn't do well in theaters, and so that idea was scrapped.
Yeah, there was a lot of ideas for this show. David Lynch wanted to do a lot of things. He wanted to have a couple of characters spin off to do their own show. Obviously, that didn't come to fruition.
In a way, it kind of did. Because the character of Audrey Horne, she was supposed to go to Hollywood to become an actress.
Yes, and that was going to follow. I guess the show was going to follow that, right?
Right, but he ended up using that for Naomi Watts' character in Mulholland Drive.
Crazy movie where hopefully I think after maybe in between season 1 and 2, maybe we could focus on David Lynch films. Maybe we could do a podcast on that, because that David Lynch films in itself is.
I haven't seen too many David Lynch films.
Mulholland Drive was my first David Lynch film that got me into that, and it was so crazy. And this was 10 years ago, and that was and to be honest, I'll be honest here, the only reason I even wanted to watch it because I heard there was a lesbian scene in it, and I was like, oh god, horny little bastard that I was, I'm like, I gotta watch this, and it actually turned out to be a good movie. And even as crazy as confusing, and it requires like 1,000 viewings from what I hear to understand. You gotta
in all honesty,
some things have different meaning. Every lamp has a meaning and whatever.
Every time you watch it, you will get something different from this show.
So how many times have you watched Mulholland Drive?
I've watched it about maybe 4 or 5 times. I mean, I haven't watched it recently.
And those 4 or 5 times you've gotten the meanings, different.
Oh yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
Because I mean, when you first watch it blind without knowing anything about it,
yeah,
you're, if you pardon the language here,
no, go for it.
Confused as fuck.
Yeah. No, I mean, I swear to God, I think he goes out and does that on purpose. And I wouldn't doubt it. I'm going to confuse everybody here.
I've also seen some websites that talk about hidden imagery within the movie.
Yeah.
Like, you'll see like a shadow of a person as someone's passing like a window or something like that. And,
oh my God.
Like little things like that.
Lynch, David Lynch, or Lynchian, is that what they call it? Like his, it's very Lynchian, I think is what they call it. This movie is very Lynchian-like. And no, David Lynch, he's weird. I mean, he's crazy, he's weird, and he's a genius, and I think that's required, and for his visions and his stuff. Because Blue Velvet, I saw it, it freaked me out, man. Dennis Hopper, I know we're supposed to talk about Twin Peaks, but we're Dennis Hopper had one of the craziest performances, and Kyle MacLachlan was in Blue Velvet, and it was crazy, and I was like, oh my God, and it's something only David Lynch would do.
See, and I bought Blue Velvet just so I could see it. And I will say that although I didn't care much for the movie, I found it slow and boring. I will say that Dennis Hopper did make one badass villain.
My God, he was he freaked me out, man. And after watching movies after that, it's just like I couldn't see him the same, because I'm like, whatever, So
okay, anyway, back to Twin Peaks.
No, I want to talk about Lynch for hours, and we should do this. We'll talk about. We'll name it the Twin Peaks podcast, but have nothing to do with Twin Peaks. We'll just talk about David Lynch's and all his movies. No, I kid. Twin Peaks podcast. Hopefully, you guys will enjoy this. Give us some feedbacks. So every week we're going to focus on one episode of the show. And obviously, 30 episodes. So this podcast will eventually end, unless we could find a way to continue this. I don't know how that would be, but I hope you enjoy this 30 episode journey into one of my favorite shows of all time, in my opinion. Anyways, it has one of the strongest cult followings, I think, even to this day. They're having a year. I think, are they still doing a yearly Twin Peaks
Fest? Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And Bucky, I guess I didn't introduce you. Bucky Adams. He's another person the only person in this state of Arizona that we're recording out of that I know had a vast knowledge of Twin Peaks. I as much as I love the show, I don't consider myself a diehard. I think the last time I saw the whole series was about 5 years ago. So I watched the pilot episode yesterday, so we could talk about it today. But Bucky has taken it one step forward, and he actually went to what year was it? 4 years ago?
2010.
2 years ago. 2010 Twin Peaks Fest. Okay. Now, can you? How was it? Was it awesome? Did you have the time of your life, or was it,
Overall, yeah. I mean, it was. First of all, the show was filmed in North Bend, Washington, and which is about an hour east of Seattle. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that the scenery there is beautiful. And
you saw the waterfall, like in the show. What was the name of the waterfall? I don't even know.
It's like it doesn't really have a name, but it's like a tourist attraction.
Yeah.
It's like there's a sidewalk where you can actually take a camera shot of it with the hotel that's like right there.
Yeah.
And it's like that wasn't photoshopped in. That's actually what it looks like. And I'm in the opening credits. You saw like this giant log. I mean, that log is like literally like 30 feet tall.
Oh my God.
And it's like, it's like literally, I thought I was like closer to it. And it's like when you walk up to it, you're like really looking up at it.
Yeah.
And, in the pilot episode, the scene where you're introduced to Ronette Pulaski, where she's walking on the bridge. I mean, I got a tour of the filming locations, and that was one of the locations we saw, and it's just a normal bridge, but the way David Lynch filmed it was just like really creepy.
Yeah, only Lynch could do something like that. So are you going back? Or would you return to something like that again to do a fest?
Probably. I mean, due to budgetary restraints,
right.
I'm not doing it in the near future.
It requires money.
Exactly.
No, so did they bring any guest star, like any of the former castmates to the fest?
Oh yes, there was. Okay, starting from like I don't want to say least impressive because everyone who was in the show was impressive, but I mean one of the least one who you never really saw was the Norwegian interpreter.
Yeah.
Who was only in for like 1 or 2 scenes in the pilot episode.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was the one I actually talked most to because he was saying that when David Lynch would film a scene just for like no reason at all, he'll say like "cut M&M break" and he'll pass out a dish of M&Ms and.
Oh my god!
And it's
awesome.
like, when I was there was also the actress that played Major Briggs's wife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The bald guy is what I say. The Air Force guy.
Yeah, the Air Force guy. His
yeah.
wife. And they announced like a surprised guest who was going to show up like halfway through the fest, and that actually turned out to be Sherilyn Fenn, who was Audrey Horne in the show.
Yep.
I mean, it was supposed to be. I can't remember the actor's name right now, but the guy that played the dwarf in the dream sequence.
Oh God!
But apparently there was
out.
like a kind of disagreement between him and another one of the actors.
There's always something like that, man. Ugh.
But still, I mean, it was just impressive to meet Sherilyn Fenn, and I had like a photo op with her, and she was really nice. I mean, but the thing is, she was there with her husband and kid or whatever, so she didn't have that much time to really talk and do whatnot.
Yeah.
But overall, it was a pleasant experience. I mean, and they even did like a Q&A where they answered their people's questions about Twin Peaks if they knew the answers to them, because, you know, with David Lynch, you know, people's biggest questions were never answered.
Yeah. It's always like that with that guy. So we're going to focus on the pilot. We'll focus on the pilot this episode, I suppose. No. So it aired on ABC, if I'm not mistaken. It was an ABC night. It was April the 8th, 1990. It premiered. Lynch and Mark Frost. Was he? I don't know if he was there at the fest or not. Probably. It'd be cool if Lynch actually showed up to one of those fests. You know, I don't know why he doesn't. You know, and he rarely talks about it. All the interviews that I've seen him in recently, you know, you don't really see him talk about it much. Maybe you've seen something different. You know, David Lynch really doesn't. You know, he's always talking about his music or, you know, his photography, whatever he does. But I wish he would just say reunion or something soon. But I don't think that's gonna happen. Everybody's old and probably dead. Half of them are dead.
I mean, a lot of people joke about how in one of the episodes during like a dream sequence, Laura Palmer says to Dale Cooper in the dream, it's like 25 or in the dream he says like she says see you in 25 years.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think it would be hilarious if on the 25th anniversary David Lynch surprised us all and came out with like a reunion show or something.
So we technically have 2 years. 3 years, right? It's a 2015 would it be 25 year? So about 2015. So hey, you're right. I guess I should be patient. And 2015, I'm sure we'll see something for Twin Peaks.
But to my understanding, I believe he is done with filmmaking, and he's focusing more on his transcendental music.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, he got into that. I know that. I was like, oh, great. He's not doing any more movies. Darn it. You know, Mulholland Drive 2. No. So getting the pilot, they pitched the pilot. David Lynch and Mark Frost pitched the pilot in about 1988. The execs loved the idea. They hey, get us a script. Mark Frost wrote most of the dialogues, and David Lynch focused on Dale Cooper. Is from what he's talked about. I was like, that's cool, man. Like Dale Cooper is my favorite character. Anyways, I know you. I don't know. It was a tough question, I think, when I asked you who your favorite character is. But Dale Cooper is my favorite character, and I'm like, that's awesome. Almost all the dialogue in the pilot, anyways, was written by David Lynch. I'm like, that's cool. And David Lynch obviously played a character in a later episode. Was it one episode? I don't remember.
No, he was in like a good 4 or 5. He played like Dale Cooper's superior.
Yeah.
Who had a hearing problem.
Yeah. And he yelled. He yelled and he yelled all these lines and because he couldn't hear anything. But the pilot pretty much it was a weird thing at the time because it introduced the murder right away, right? And that was something that really hasn't been done, I guess.
Exactly. It didn't necessarily introduce the murder, but showed the aftermath.
The aftermath, yes.
It showed the dead body wrapped in plastic on the shore, and the character of Pete Martell, an old guy with a very, very signature voice, was the one that found her.
She's dead.
She's dead, wrapped in plastic.
She's wrapped in plastic. Yeah, no. So that's where everything starts. We're introduced to a plethora of characters, man, and that's another new thing because you're not used shows when they in a pilot, anyways. They don't dare to do that. They don't want to throw a bunch of characters so you can remember and stuff. This show did that. They threw. I can't even name all the characters that they threw at you in the first half hour of the show.
Right, and it's like almost everyone is linked to Laura Palmer in some way.
Yeah, they are, yes, and pretty much it's focused on the aftermath, pretty much, and we discover that all these characters are not perfect. Everybody has a problem. Everybody's in trouble. Somebody's doing something wrong, and it's crazy. Just everything is intertwined.
And it's like when in the pilot episode there at the town meeting, Dale Cooper even says it may be someone in this town who did it.
Yeah.
And from there, I believe that's when the fans were hooked and they were thinking, okay, who killed Laura Palmer? And that was the question on everyone's lips. That's why everyone tuned in episode after episode, because they're thinking, oh, could it be this guy?
Yeah.
He acts weird.
Yeah, it's a so yeah, there's a lot of characters. Donna, I think would you say Donna's like a central one because she's the best friend, obviously?
Yeah, Donna Hayward. She was
Laura,
the best friend of Laura.
So she's the central one, I think, and she's and then
played by Laura Flynn Boyle.
Laura Flynn Boyle. I don't even know where she's at. Where's she doing now? I haven't seen her in anything lately. Maybe
I haven't seen her since Men in Black 2.
She's living off of the Twin Peaks residual check, probably of even though they don't rerun it anywhere. Like 10 years ago was the last time they were rerunning it. I forgot what channel, like at midnight, like every night.
I think like a few years ago, there's a channel called Chill. They did Twin Peaks on that channel for like a 3 or 4 day run, and that was about it.
Yeah. Initially, it is Laura's death is initially blamed on her boyfriend, her boyfriend. Who was seeing he was seeing a married woman on the side pretty much. And that's another thing that was like thrown at us. I'm like, oh my God, what's that?
Oh yeah, because the thing is, this was kind of a spoof of a melodrama / soap opera.
That was the whole idea.
So it's like half the people in Twin Peaks are cheating on their significant others with other people.
It is, and it's and I guess that was very controversial at the time. No, and I love the way they approach it too. To like they went in there as we're gonna spoof it. We're not gonna take ourselves too seriously because some of the acting is it's overacting. It's very like why like that's horrible acting.
There are certain scenes when someone's giving like a really cheesy speech that you'll actually see someone turn away from the camera because they're trying to stifle a laughter.
Yeah,
because that's just how cheesy it is sometimes, but it works.
It does, and so it's throughout the series or throughout the pilot, anyways. The boyfriend is thought to have murdered her, and they even they question him. Well, we can't forget to mention Del Cooper. He comes to Twin Peaks to investigate the murder that could be possibly linked to a previous murder, right?
Right.
Yeah, so and
that's actually covered a little bit more in Firewalk with Me.
Yeah.
Which is like a little standalone movie which is in a way kind of part of the Twin Peaks timeline, but it's one of the important things not to see it until after you've seen Twin Peaks. Otherwise, a major spoiler is going to be spoiled for you.
Okay, yeah, like the first 2 minutes or something, right? Oh, man. So... yeah, and watching this pilot, watching the pilot yesterday, and it just cracks me up, man. I was like, what's all this, man? There's just so much going on, and I gotta say, I liked it. I enjoyed it, and even after that, I wanted to immediately jump to the second episode. I'm like, oh God, I want to keep going. Even though I know what's gonna happen, I've seen it. I was like, I want to keep watching that, and it still has that effect, and I'm sure it has that effect to people to this day as well. It's like, okay, all right. And I know there's people out there who, especially on the internet, there's a huge cult following, and there's been a cult following since it come out. Even when it went off the air, everybody, like, I still love the show and stuff like that. So they, I know a couple people. They don't live in Arizona, unfortunately, but they hold like a yearly, Twin Peaks marathon at their houses and stuff. And I was like, that's
nice.
really cool. You always hear like, oh, Star Wars marathon, Lord of the Rings marathon, stuff like that. No, they literally watch the whole series. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Good Lord, that's diehard right there. Are you that diehard, Bucky? Would you watch a whole marathon in a weekend?
Not on a weekend. Don't get me wrong. I love the show.
Yeah.
When I was at Twin Peaks Fest, I came across major diehard fans, even more so than me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had a costume contest, and I mean, one of the cheesiest costumes, but the winner was someone dressed up as a jelly donut. But I mean, other costumes, someone came in dressed as a white horse, which you will come across in one of the later episodes, and someone came dressed as the strobe light Laura Palmer sequence from another one of the later episodes, which is actually one of the most impressive scenes in the show, but we'll talk about that part when we get to that specific
Definitely.
episode.
So I want to talk about the quirky characters. Like, that's pretty much what it is. It's so quirky. They're so weird.
If you don't like them, if you're not really involved in the mystery, you got to at least appreciate the weirdness of all the characters.
Yeah, and it's just... there's one scene that got me, and I was drinking, I had drank a soda, literally I put soda in my mouth, and I saw this and I spit this out. There's a scene where the deputy or the sheriff is going to the high school, okay, for the first time, and she's they're telling the teachers, about the Palmer's death.
Right.
And one of the scenes, and there's these kids in the locker, and literally one of the scenes, there's a kid dancing. And nobody remembers. Yeah, I don't think you'll remember this, but there's literally a kid dancing. Like, he just kind of shuffles off to the side.
Ironically, when I saw that this morning, I did notice that for the first time.
Yeah, I didn't notice that 2-3 years ago a few years ago back. I did not notice that, and I was like, "What the hell? What is he doing?" He's just kind of just shuffling off frame, kind of thing, and I'm like, the hell?
Right.
And it's like this stuff like that, and quirky stuff like that, and that's why I love the show, and I think that's what a lot of people love the show.
It was to lighten the mood, I guess, before the big bad news.
Yeah, and that was another thing. Yeah, like so the school was told about it. People were freaking out. They were, Donna was crying. They were trying to, like, oh, it's okay. So the school took it really, because she was portrayed as this innocent.
Well, I wouldn't say innocent, but more of the popular girl.
The popular girl.
And plus, remember, this is a very small town. This is a town where, like, everyone knows who everyone else is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she's very popular, but she holds secrets. There's secrets about her that we don't know yet.
Exactly.
In this pilot, she's very popular, and her parents, obviously when they were like, how could somebody do this to my daughter? And they probably thought she was this innocent girl, obviously popular. But yeah, so the school was distraught. The principal made a speech, announcing her death, and he was like crying, and it was like, wow. But
the character Josie Packard closed down the sawmill.
And
that's part of the reason, because there was another victim in this, but she didn't die. Ronette Pulaski. She
was wandering on the train tracks. This was after, obviously after the death and everything. And
her father worked for the mill. That's why they closed down the mill.
Yes. And so they found her, and she was she lapsed in a coma, pretty much.
Right.
And we don't really see her much, right? I mean, they go the sheriff and Cooper, they go to visit her, obviously, at the hospital, to see what they're. But I don't think she's in. That's it, right? Was it just the pilot that she's?
No, it's like in a future episode she does wake up.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So we'll leave it at that. Dun dun dun. So there's obviously more going on. There's another thing with the boyfriend as well. There obviously there's something going up with him and his best friend. I forgot his name. He has
the blonde jock guy.
The blonde jock guy. There you go. There's obviously, and it's not revealed, but there's something that's up because they were able to determine that the killer might be a biker, okay, because of a video that was with Palmer and Donna. Was it right? There's a video,
right,
and the reflection of her eyeball showed a motorcycle, and they're like, it's a biker. So the biker was filming this or something. I was like, really? A reflection on a VHS tape off her eyeball gave all that information. Whatever works, right? And so the mystery just keeps deepening and deepening, and that's a good thing. You know, you don't want to.
Oh yeah,
you don't want to give everything away.
We're given like a lot of clues. Some of them are false leads, and some of them are actually go somewhere.
Yep.
Like they find Laura's diary, and the last entry in there says, "Nervous about meeting Jay tonight."
Yeah, that's what the people were actually trying to figure out. Pretty much, Cooper and the sheriff are trying to figure out who Jay is, pretty much, and they're they're leading to the biker bar. Oh god, they're going to lead us to Jay and this and that, and so yeah, and I think they even released the Laura Palmer, her diary. I think to buy. I think they released that. I think her diary.
There was a book called The Secret. Secret Diary of Laura Palmer. And when I was at Twin Peaks Fest, I actually bought a copy of that because it was written by David Lynch's daughter.
Yes,
Jennifer Lynch,
who is a director as well. She's done a few movies. I think she even went to one of the fests. I think.
Yeah, she was there in 2010.
Yours, okay,
yeah.
All right, good, all right. And you saw her? Did you meet her?
I briefly talked to her. I bought 2 copies of the book, one to keep and one for her to sign.
Nice, nice. That's awesome, man. You should put it on eBay. Signed by $1,000, $1,000. No. So I would love to read that. Hopefully I could get that. That'd be cool. Some insight. So there's a lot of mysteries, and I think that's why everybody was so fascinated with it, and especially the pilot episode. And I don't know how they showed this, because in Europe the pilot episode was shown in theaters. And imagine that, like, and you know, I don't think next week after that they showed the show. I think they had to wait a little bit. So, like, I could just imagine people in Europe, like, what the hell did we just watch? And what the heck is going on? Who are all these characters, you know? So I feel sorry for Europe a little bit.
Well, and I know that the European version, it kind of close-ended it, and it is available to see on YouTube.
There is. And
I did see it.
Yeah, and I'll put a link in it on when we post this up. There is, if you want Twin Peaks in a short version without, you know, I guess watching everything else.
Right. I mean, it is kind of ruined if you do watch the ending to this, because some of Cooper's dream sequences in the second episode are kind of drawn out and are actually happen in real life. Like in the pilot episode, you saw briefly a guy with one arm in the hospital. Oh. And that's actually explored a little bit more. And we'll get more into that in the future
definitely.
episodes.
No, we'll definitely going to be exploring that. So it's crazy that was actually in the contract with the network. That was the only reason that alternate ending was filmed, because the network wanted him to do it. They're like, just in case that doesn't work out, film an alternate ending. You know, film an alternate ending. That way, if we need to close the series, we'll close it. You know, because like I said, from the beginning, the network was pretty, like, one exec at the network was behind it, believed in the show. Everybody else is like, what the hell is this? This is not going to work. What? Okay. So that exec finally, like, won. He had to fight for the show, and he finally won, and they finally agreed to only, was it 7 episodes the first season? I want to say 7 or 9.
I think it was 7 episodes.
7 episodes.
Yes.
So that's why they agreed. Usually shows are back in the day, and these were 22 episodes a year. They only agreed to do 7 episodes because they weren't sure. They were like, "Oh, well, let's just do 7 episodes. That way, let's do 7 episodes, and we'll be safe. We don't have to, you know, if we need to cancel, we'll cancel it." But obviously, when this premiered, it was it premiered as a Sunday night movie. It was a pilot. It was a 2-hour pilot. Obviously, it was a Sunday night movie. It wasn't advertised as Twin Peaks, the new series or whatever. It was a movie that obviously was going to continue as a series. It ended up being the 34 million people watched it. Ended up being the most watched TV movie that year. 89 to the 89-90 season, and that's good. So right there and then, because of the ratings, the network's like, yeah, you're fine. Just go ahead and make more episodes. Because
it was like the next decade's Who Shot JR, except
yes.
this time it was Who Killed Laura Palmer.
Yes, and and it must. I could only imagine, because I do remember it. I do remember as a kid being it was on the air when and I watched a couple episodes and I didn't understand anything of it. I was a kid, I don't know, like what, okay, whatever. But I do remember sitting down with friends of the family that they would come over and watch the Twin Peaks because they wanted to know what the hell was happening next. And few shows do that nowadays, that like make you want to keep watching to find out. Most
right.
shows nowadays is they solve everything in one episode. Like
right,
yeah. So there's
like House
and stuff like that, and that's fine. But it's been a while for me, anyways, that I've seen a show that I keep wanting to watch. I'm like, you know what? I need to go to sleep, but I can't because I need to watch the next episode, and because I can't go to sleep until I find out what the hell just happened. So Twin Peaks, I found that when I watched this about 5 years ago, I found myself doing that. I was like, oh my god, I gotta watch. I keep watching. Oh my god, this is absurd, and you could tell, and it's funny, and that was their whole goal going into it. They were like, yeah, we're just gonna make fun of and having David Lynch behind it. He directed the pilot. Co-wrote the pilot, and I think he directed Firewalk with Me, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
He directed that. And obviously, unfortunately, it was a box office bomb, and that kind of pretty much canceled every possibility of a offshoot of something, of another show or. So.
Right. But David Lynch knows how to keep people watching. I mean, just with the pilot episode alone, I mean, even if you're not interested in the mystery, we're introduced to all these characters, like who is that redhead and why is she wearing an eye patch,
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, and
Nadine Hurley.
Yeah, and
we're going to talk about her in like a few episodes.
Yeah, it's...
but just an idea is that, they do give a reason as to why she has that eye patch on.
Everything, pretty much everything that they set up and everything that's unanswered, maybe at the pilot or even a few episodes in, they eventually address. I think most of it, anyways. I don't think they had enough time to, because I think unfortunately the show did get canceled. I think canceled, not. I don't think it was given a proper ending. I don't remember.
Oh no, the show ended in a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
and that's what made the show so great because people wanted an answer. A finish. There was
it was a lot of anger. I do remember that. I do remember somebody talking about it, and they were like, "This is ridiculous." Why didn't they keep going? Unfortunately, the greedy bastards over at ABC, they're like, "Wait a minute, we're not getting 34 million views an episode now. We're only getting 10 million views, maybe 50 million views, and apparently that's not enough to keep something going. It's ridiculous." So a show to be talked about to this day, it's crazy. It's very, it's very rare. I mean, I guess Prisoner 42, which a lot of people I've talked to anyways, haven't heard of it, and it's like that here. I've talked to some of my friends. They're like, no, I haven't heard of Twin Peaks. What the hell is that? I'm like, you haven't heard of It's by David Lynch. Who's David Lynch? I'm like, oh my god!
I get that quite a bit too.
So it's very and fortunately, Twitter, there you'll find I found a lot of Twin Peaks fans, and I follow Twin Peaks, and they follow me, and we'll have some discussions, and it's awesome to find somebody on the internet like that, and people, be like, yeah, man, like, hey, will anybody want to hear like a Twin Peaks podcast? Anybody interested? Like, yeah, man, that hasn't been done in a while. I'm like, that's cool. Let's do that. Get, travel all this together, and if people don't like it, tell us. If you love it, please tell us. Or, just be like, that Frank guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Fire him. Tell me that too. And then I'll unfollow you on Twitter. And, So this episode, as a pilot, how would you rate it? Like, I don't want to say the whole series because Would you? I don't think you think the pilot is the best episode of the whole series. I don't think so. You know, I'm sure there's better one. There's probably better. There is better episodes out there. Of the series.
I mean, like most shows, it's the first episode is always the one that sets the tone of what the show is like.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, this one starts off with a bang, but we're introduced with so many characters.
Yes.
So, I mean, not even all of the main characters even introduced. Like, we never introduced to Deputy Hawk just yet. I mean, he plays an important role halfway through the series.
Well, he's there, right? No, he's there, but he doesn't talk, right? Or is he?
I don't even think we see him in the pilot.
We don't see. Okay, yeah, you're right.
We'll probably introduce to him in the first or second actual episode.
We don't even see Del Cooper, which is the main character of the show, maybe 35, 40 minutes into the pilot.
Right.
And that's weird. That's crazy. I'm like, wow, that's it's so weird to introduce a main character of the series, that much time into the show, but they did it brilliantly. I thought they had an awesome intro.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I just thought it was cool how he could do all of his lines like in without even editing, to remember his lines that specifically.
Yeah, and he won deservingly so. He won the Golden Globe that year for Best Actor. I did
not know that.
Yeah, he did. He won. I think he deserved it because his character, man, cracks me up, and his love for his simplicity in life, like that. I think I don't want to quote for a later episode, but like what, one time a day, take some time for yourself. Sit there and just ponder on life, enjoy life, kind of thing. I think he was saying something around.
He was saying, give yourself a gift every day.
Yeah,
don't plan it, don't wait for it, just let it happen.
Yeah, just stuff like that. I love his character. And
one thing I did like about his character that you never really see in almost any TV show nowadays is that, I mean, pretty much with TV shows nowadays, there's a strong Christian element. They always bring up God and whatnot. Dale Cooper, he doesn't necessarily bring up God, but he brings up Buddhism. He always talks about, the Dalai Lama and things like that. And you never hear about that in TV nowadays.
No. It's just crazy.
And so I did like that he was a different type of character. He thought differently. Not saying, I mean, to me, he was one of the most noble characters on TV.
Yeah. So, yeah, my favorite. So, what's your favorite character? What's in your opinion? Let's get that out of the way. What's your favorite character of the whole series? Was that character introduced in the pilot?
My favorite character wasn't actually introduced in the pilot. You're probably not going to meet him until the first or second actual episode.
Okay, all right. So we'll save it there. That way, be like, yo, that's my favorite character. That guy right there.
But
yes.
I will do have a question for you though. What is your favorite scene in the pilot episode?
It would have to be. There's a few for me. It would definitely have to be Cooper's intro, Dale Cooper's intro to, he's driving to Twin Peaks, talking to his tape recorder, Diane. Do you think she's real? Diane? Do you think he's just crazy and talking to himself on the tape recorder?
That's one thing someone brought up is that if it's a tape recorder, how is he communicating with her? Is he sending the tape out through, UPS every night or something?
Because he throughout the series, right? He talks.
Oh yeah, he talks every day.
It never shows him, Yeah, you're right. Sending it off. Is he putting it in the mail somewhere?
He must be, because there are some episodes where he'll say, like, thanks for sending me this shirt, Diane.
Oh, my God.
And it's like, you got to wonder,
I wonder if he was, like, crazy and he was just talking to himself, and imaginary secretary or whatever on his little tape recorder.
I will say that two scenes that really popped out for me in the pilot episode was when Donna Hayward was in class and the deputy was talking with the teacher about Laura not being there.
Yeah.
And she didn't even hear what deputy was saying. She just looked over at Laura's empty desk, and she knew.
She automatically knew.
Yeah, she knew something was wrong, and she just started crying.
So there's little hints. Yeah.
And the other one was when after Laura's mom was sedated, she starts having this really bad vision, and she wakes up in shock. Now, what many people don't realize about the show is that scene where she shoots up from the couch, there's a shot of a mirror right up by her side. And in that mirror, you see the reflection of, it was just supposed to be a set dresser.
Yeah, and it was by accident. This is completely by accident.
Right, and it was by accident that person got in the shot. And David Lynch just flew with it going, we got our Bob.
We got our Bob. And that's crazy how that happened. Yeah, it was just an accident. He just happened to be in the shot in the mirror. And then they turned him into a character.
Right. David Lynch just ran with that. And
like, I love it. Yes,
that's a brilliant idea.
So that is, well, is it Bob or I don't know? He's known by a few names. Bob, I guess we could call him.
Just for right now, until we get to halfway through the series.
We'll call him Bob right now. Yeah, and I love that. And
you have to admit, he is a scary looking guy.
He is. I wonder if he. Yeah. I was like, ooh, all right, well. So obviously, there's a lot of characters. We're not gonna go through all of them. Just the main ones. The more important ones. And as we pretty much get close to wrapping up here, this series is awesome because it starts off at one thing, obviously, and it opens up to this whole different, not different, but obviously all these problems these people are having, and the show focuses on it has a lot of characters, almost in every episode they're dealing with, all the problems they have, and like you said earlier, almost everything's connected to Laura Palmer,
right?
So and she hasn't really been. Well, we'll come to find out she hasn't really been. She has a lot of dirty secrets, very dirty secrets that, people didn't know about. Even that doctor, what was that doctor's name? Jacoby?
Lawrence Jacoby.
Lawrence Jacoby. Right off the bat, he's like, yeah, I had, I was messing around with.
Well, he just says that Laura was his patient. He never really.
Okay,
not in the pilot episode.
Okay. So that guy cracked me up. The intro for him.
By the way, spoiler warning.
Yeah. Definitely. If it's on Netflix streaming, you have no excuse to check it out. Follow it with us. Hey, there and it's a lot of these details, especially the pilot. The ending scene of the pilot, because only half of a heart pendant was found on Laura Palmer's body. Was that it?
James Hurley.
Half of the other half of the pendant was James Hurley had, and he was so scared.
He buried it in the woods somewhere.
He buried it in the woods, and then he got taken in. And put in the jail, obviously, and so they buried it because they're Donna was like, no, you can't, just bury it because they're gonna automatically connect you to the murder. You're gonna be charged. Bury it. So he buries it, and they come get him anyways. Obviously because they were looking for him, and
questioning.
They put him in the prison jail. Sorry, yeah, not prison because that he's already in jail. And obviously that night before, or not a few hours before, the boyfriend, Laura Palmer's boyfriend, and Bobby, and the blonde haired jock guy are
if I remember correctly, his character name was Mike.
Mike, yes, are in jail, and they're It was so creepy, man. They were just like, weren't they howling?
They were barking.
They were barking. And I was like, what? And the guy was like, he was like, oh my God.
I guess he was trying to be intimidating.
Whatever.
And I did find out when I was at Twin Peaks Fest that James Marshall, the guy that plays James Hurley,
mm-hmm.
he thinks he was miscast because he was supposed to be like the biker dude. And he doesn't really come off as a biker dude throughout the series, but...
Yeah,
I mean, especially in that jail scene, he just looks so wimpy.
Well, yeah, I mean, even when the sheriff and the deputy came to interrogate him earlier in the pilot, it just seemed, he seemed kind of misplaced in that role a little bit, in my opinion, and and it's so much to cover, and so the pilot episode pretty much starts the series off with a bang, and in my opinion, it only gets better. The first series, anyways. I think the second season was still good, even though it did. I know a lot of people were kind of unhappy about the second season, but I'm not gonna say why because there was a lot of stuff, I guess, revealed a little early on. I think right. So we're not gonna say what it was. But yeah. So Bucky, what could we expect from this Twin Peaks podcast? What are we gonna expect? We're gonna We're gonna expect some information, our views on the episode.
Right. We're gonna talk about like our favorite scenes per episode because we're not gonna jump ahead, obviously. Because now, this may be a warning. I'm not sure how Frank wants to do this. There may be spoilers contained within certain episodes.
Yes,
whatnot.
if there's a spoiler on that episode, we will warn you. We will warn you ahead of time. Oh, obviously, let me know. Be like, no, and then this. I'm like, oh God. I will be like, warning. We're about to skip ahead, whatever. So. Let us know what you think of the episode. I know we didn't cover too much of the pilot because it's just awesome. There's pretty much we could spend the next hour and a half describing every single freaking character that was revealed. But I definitely want to go more in depth on the second episode or episode 1, but it's the second.
Right.
It's weird. I was looking at Wikipedia and all that. I'm like, really? This one's the pilot, episode 0. And then it starts episode 1 and 2.
Right.
I'm like, what the? All right. Confuse me even more. No. So the pilot's awesome. David Lynch did in one of the recent interviews for Twin Peaks, I think it was an anniversary or something, he did reveal that Twin Peaks does take place in the same universe as Lost Highway, another Lynch film with Bill Pullman and that scary looking guy that was in the paste face.
Right.
Robert.
I think
something.
I bought the movie, but as much as I tried to watch it, I tried watching it twice, and the bad news is I fell asleep twice.
I saw it. I rented it on VHS back when, remember Blockbuster Video?
Oh, yes.
Now they're nowhere to be found. Everything's closed down and stuff. So I rented Lost Highway. I'm like, yeah, man. And then I had no idea what was going on. I had no idea. It was confusing. And if somebody said, "Hey, how's Lost? What's Lost Highway about?" I don't know.
Right.
So but he did reveal that Lost Highway takes place. Well, Twin Peaks and Lost Highway are in the same universe, same world, kind of thing. And that's cool, man. And I wish. I'm very curious. I wish I could have seen, or everybody could have seen, what possibilities there was if he were allowed to continue, or Twin Peaks wasn't canceled. He had so many ideas to continue the show. A couple characters were going to have their own shows, like who was going to go to Hollywood? Audrey Horne. That was going to be a spinoff right there. And I think he was going to do another spinoff. I forgot who. Everybody's going to get their own damn show at some point, I'm sure. But I wish he wasn't held back like that, and I wish I was very curious to see how it would have gone. What show would have lasted, what show wouldn't have. And following being a spinoff of a show like that, I'm sure it would have been hard probably to, be your own show with this, following at that time a success, anyways. So, how about you, Bucky? What would you have wanted to see? I guess the pilot or anything different? It was perfect for you.
I know we were briefly introduced to the Log Lady, but I would have liked to have learned a little bit more about her than just that we call her the Log Lady.
Yeah, who's that?
No, granted, we're going to learn more about her in future episodes.
Definitely. That's what I'm very excited about. That's unfortunately, Del Cooper is my favorite character, but there's other characters I love as well, especially, and that unfortunately most of them aren't even introduced in the pilot.
Right.
That's why it's very hard to talk about the pilot. Look,
it seems like all the characters have like a shining moment in the show, and I'm gonna when we get to the certain episodes, I'm gonna let you know what scenes touched me the most.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Literally, no, I can't. They didn't touch you literally. So
speaking of Laura Flynn Boyle,
hopefully 2015 something happens. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be interesting.
They had a mini reunion in not Twin Peaks, in Psych.
Right, I've heard about that.
Yes,
I do want to see that episode.
They had maybe like 3 or 4 of the main-ish characters were on there, and I don't know, but yeah, definitely. I haven't seen the episode. I just heard about it. That's what they were promoting it as. Mini Twin Peak reunion on Psych.
I know, and I know that the episode for that Psych was called Dual Spires.
Oh god. Yeah. So I mean, Twin Peaks. This is gonna just be a Twin Peaks only podcast. There's gonna be Twin Peaks and video games, right, Bucky? Is that what we agreed on? Twin Peaks and video games. And what a combination would that be, huh? Or comic books or something weird like that. No, Twin Peaks only, 30 episodes. And
I will say that if my good friend Possible is listening to this, I just gotta love those Douglas fir trees.
So that's gonna be that's gonna wrap it up for the pilot episode of Twin Peaks, episode 1 or episode 2. Technically, we're gonna deal with next week, and we're gonna
we'll just call this one episode 0.
Episode 0,
just to not create any confusion.
Episode 0. That concludes episode 0. Episode 1, we're gonna be dealing with next week. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed it. Let us know how. What could we do differently? If because this one this kind of came up last minute. Like less than a week ago, I was like, hey Bucky, I called you up like, hey, do you want to like come in the studio and like do a podcast on Twin Peaks? You're like, sure. I'm like, okay, let's do a Twin Peaks podcast.
And also, please feel free to share what your favorite moments in the pilot episode were.
So I'm going to be doing that as well for 1 week before. At least a few days before we do the show, I'm going to ask you for that episode. Let's say episode 1, what is your favorite scene? And we will actually read it on the show. Like so and so, you could you could contact us on Twitter. We got a Bucky. Did you know we had a Twitter for our show?
I did not know that.
And now I'm sharing this with you right now. Unfortunately, every possible Twin Peaks combination is almost taken. Twin Peaks. Obviously, somebody has it. Twin Peaks cast taken.
Agent Dale Cooper.
Why didn't I think about it? You know what? I'm glad this isn't live because I'm going to go in there and see if Agent Dale Cooper is taken or not. But we are at Twin Peaks Pod as of right now. That could be temporary. We'll definitely let you know if it changes. But if you have any comments, questions, go for it, Bucky.
And if you want to contact me on my Twitter, I am PrisonerFan48.
Yes, and I am at Burrito Johnson, 2 R's in there. And obviously, you could contact us in either one of those, or just shoot a message, a reply to Twin Peaks Pod, just the way it sounds. No underscore, no spaces. I'm going to be asking a question. I'll ask her right now. What's your favorite scene on the next episode? Episode 1. Send it and we'll read it. Not live, obviously, but on the podcast, and we'll give you a shout out as well. So, Bucky, what? You have any closing comments, Bucky?
Just feel free to share anything if you want. If you feel that our podcast can be improved,
yes, please.
Just let us know if one of us is talking too much or not enough. Let us know.
Yeah,
this is my first podcast attempt.
Ever?
First real podcast attempt. So please be kind with your comments about me.
Yes. Who's that bastard? Take him off the show. It should only be Burrito Johnson, only talking by himself. No.
Well, you need someone with a manly voice.
Oh, it's probably going to be like, who's that bastard Burrito Johnson? Get him off there. No. But definitely, we are big fans of we are big fans of Twin Peaks, and I guess semi-fans of David Lynch movies. Because it's a hit and miss with his movies, unfortunately. He does all his movies. I know there's David Lynch diehard fans out there like, oh my God, every movie he does, I worship him. And that's fine. That's cool. That's good to have, but I don't agree with it, and people hate me about it, Oh,
also, one last thing I would like to interject is when I was at Twin Peaks Fest, I came across a diehard Twin Peaks fan who actually had a tattoo of Laura Palmer's facial shot on her side leg,
like the Homecoming picture?
No, the dead body.
Oh shit.
So I'm not sure if you are seeing this. If you are, please let us know if that's you, and we will give you credit.
Hell yeah. No, definitely. I'm going to be, like I said, my goal, I'm going to be trying to connect with the community, the Twin Peaks community. They're out there. We just got to find them, unfortunately. There's not that many. Hey, maybe we could start a Twin Peaks community in Arizona. Why not, right? Right, Bucky? There's not.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm sure there's people out there that, enjoy it and stuff, but we're going to go to wrap it up. We're going to stop talking. We're going to stop blabbling on, man. We're talking too much. That's going to be the Twin Peaks podcast. I hope you enjoy
thank you for listening, and hope you enjoy listening to us again.
All right.
It isn't often that a television show can have such a notorious phrase that's known after more than 2 decades, where you can ask a question and people simply know what you're referring to, and sometimes they haven't even seen the show to know what you're referring to. 2 very notorious phrases that I can think of the top of my head would have to be, number 1, who killed Laura Palmer, and number 2, the phrase, she's dead, wrapped in plastic. For such a groundbreaking premiere episode of the pilot, which was 90 minutes, which is quite a delight, here we stand, 2012, 22 and a half years after the initial airing of the pilot episode of Twin Peaks. And in that, there are quite a number of nice little features that happen in that 90 minutes, which I like to reflect on and would like to share. So, firstly, one of the most amazing features in the pilot is probably when we first meet Special Agent Dale Cooper and the monologue of when he's talking to Diane in the car as he's driving into the town of Twin Peaks. It was all done in one take, and it just flows. And it doesn't matter how many times I've seen that pilot, that scene just makes me smile ear to ear. In the pilot, it sets the scene of the quiet logging town of Twin Peaks that's been somewhat shattered by the discovery of Laura Palmer's body. And we briefly learn about other somewhat quirky residents of the town. We look at their life choices and some of the secrets that they carry, which more or less renders everyone a suspect or having some involvement into knowing what really happened to Laura Palmer that ended her life and how she was found on the riverbank. So another wonderful feature of the pilot, and of course being directed by David Lynch, co-creator with Mark Frost, is Laura's mother, Sarah Palmer, when she has her nightmare and believes that she sees the killer Bob. And the sound of the fan, the drones, in the way that it's been set up for her to go into Laura's room and see Bob there at the end of the bed is a very David Lynch thing to do, in the sense of hearing the drones, the menacing sound effects that go with it, even the fan, the ceiling fan, as it's the sounds of it, of the blades as it's spinning, and also seeing Bob for the first time. And a funny thing is, the Frank Silva, who plays Bob in Twin Peaks, was actually a set decorator, and he had that look, but personality-wise is the total opposite of Bob. And in the scene where Sarah Palmer has her nightmare and eventually sits up, you can actually see Bob's reflection in the mirror above her. From what I've read, that was actually an accident that happened in filming, but David Lynch wanted to keep that in, which I think serves a purpose. It's quite easy to miss, but once you've seen it, you can't unsee it, and if you go through the pilot episode again and again, you will actually see Bob in the reflection of the mirror, and it can be quite terrifying. A few other bits and pieces that I've learnt along the way after watching, which you might see as being a bit strange, generally might be as the result of David Lynch seeing something and deciding to keep it in. So when they have Laura's body and they're looking over it with Sheriff Truman and Cooper, he asks a question, and I think he's a pathologist, says his name, and Sheriff Truman again asked him a question, which actually was by accident from what I've read too, where he thought that Sheriff Truman had actually asked him his name, and that's what he says. So, I mean, it's little things like that that maintain that sense of quirk, but also keep it so enjoyable to watch, even after all this time. And I was probably about 4 years old when Twin Peaks first aired. My parents watched it. I had no idea what was going on the TV, but certainly as I neared my 20s and sat down to watch it for the first time, it was such an experience. And the pilot probably is one of the most enjoyable and enthralling of any pilot series of a television show created to date. So with thanks to David Lynch and his direction style, it's certainly quite a wonderful watch.